I can't see anything but just black.
You are in a locked bathroom by yourself, but your consciousness was outside of the bathroom.
I was watching everything. I'm looking at a movie, but it's filmed from the ceiling down. This ambulance pulls up, 3 medics. They check vitals, nothing. There is no heartbeat for well over an hour. They recorded time of death, put the body in a body bag. There's this beautiful man dressed in white, and he said, "I'm not God. I'm your guide."
Vincent Todd Tolman was declared dead in the bathroom of a Dairy Queen when he was 25. Hours later, he was brought back to life. His book, The Light After Death, discusses his unbelievable experience in the afterlife, and he's here to tell us what he learned when he died about the only way to live. You were in a coma.
3 days, 0 brain activity. I don't want to go back to my body. I started to hear my brother saying a special prayer. I command you to be whole. I command you to come back to your body. I woke up. I didn't want to be here. This was hell. Being here after there, that's why we can't remember it. If we could remember it, we wouldn't stay here. I don't share my experience to try to convince anyone of anything. I share my experience like a PR campaign for heaven and for who we really are, so that we can reconnect, find solutions, and stop focusing so much on the problems. We have to bring love everywhere we go, and that will be heaven on earth. And that's coming.
Hi, I'm Mayim Bialik.
And I'm Jonathan Cohen.
And welcome to our breakdown. Jonathan, that was a pregnant pause that I just inserted because I don't know that I can do justice to what you're about to experience here.
I'll give you the Cliff Notes.
Give us the Cliff Notes, Jonathan.
This man defies all medical explanation. He was dead for between 45 minutes and an hour and a half. And he came back with an unbelievable experience of what it is like in the afterlife, how souls get here, what we're doing on earth, and how to free yourself from the struggles that you're experiencing.
Vincent Todd Tolman is our guest today. He wrote The Light After Death, My Journey to Heaven and Back. And yeah, as Jonathan just said, Vinney, as he goes by, Vinney died in the bathroom of a Dairy Queen when he was 25 years old. No one knew he was in there. By the time they found him, his body was cold. There was no pulse. They called a time of death and they zipped him up in a body bag. However, he was watching the entire scene unfold from some sort of place above the Dairy Queen, is how he describes it. He ended up not even realizing that it was his body until he was almost to the hospital, zipped up in a body bag. Not only did he come back, he was then placed in a coma, brain dead for 3 days. In that time, he experienced an interaction with the world after this one. He came back with 10 very specific messages, re-entered his body, and began to live a life as someone with a completely different experience of reality, of consciousness, and of the quantum realm that we are all in. We are thrilled to have Vinney here in person. Vincent Todd Tolman, welcome to The Breakdown.
Break it down. Thank you.
We've heard a variety of NDEs, and we're very, very eager to hear the uniqueness of yours. So before we kind of tell the story, or have you tell the story, if you had to tell people one thing that they should prepare to understand from the journey that you went on, what would it be?
To understand that what you're thinking is real is not. And that there's a whole nother reality that you were tapped into as a child that you can tap into as an adult.
I think where we should start is tell us how you died.
Well, I was an amateur bodybuilder. This is back in 2003. It wasn't like anything I made money off of, but it was definitely a major hobby, working out twice a day. And me and one of my best friends, we were doing that. And we found this supplement back then that would help your muscle recovery happen like twice as fast. So when you're building muscle, you rip it by lifting, tear that muscle, it repairs itself bigger, and that's how you bulk up. And so we were in a bulk up on our arms, on our chest, on our back. And so we were doing these like really heavy routines, and we wanted to do them every day and not wait for the recovery. And you can do that, or you could have, back when this product was still legal. And so we ordered, probably maybe 30 bottles across a year and a half. And all of a sudden it was so popular, couldn't get it anywhere anymore. You'd have to go on a waiting list no matter where you ordered. And then product would show up and it would get sold for like $10 on the dollar out the back door. No one was getting their orders. So we found some from Thailand. But I had lived in Thailand at one time for a while. So I thought, Thailand's safe. They have really good food and drug safety, at least in the manufacturing sector. So I thought that's going to be pretty safe. So we ordered a bottle, but the bottle came with all Thai writing on it and no English. So we cracked that open, we sniffed it, and it smells just like the American stuff. And it's a liquid. You just take a liquid bottle cap. So we both just said, let's do it. We're going to go do a workout, go get something to eat, go see a car show, like some new cars. And that was the plan for the day. And then maybe do a second workout on the way back.
How big is this bottle? Like, is it like a drink? It's like a shot?
I would say it's like a 1.75. It's not that big. So, you would just take the lid to the bottle and use that lid as your measure. And you would take one bottle cap.
Got it.
We both did it. And right away I was like, wow, that was way sour. That was way more sour than the American stuff. And my buddy was like, yeah, that was different tasting. And right away I started feeling like cold come over my chest. And I had had surgery in the past.
Oh, yeah. Anesthetized, yeah.
Yeah, anesthetized. I knew what that felt like, that coldness, and it felt the exact same. So I told my buddy, dude, this one's way stronger than normal. So let's go get something to eat, because we knew that would offset whatever, disperse it with food. It makes it so your body absorbs less.
Metabolize it.
So we went down to the closest restaurant to his house, and we barely make it into the parking lot. He's literally like going to sleep while he's driving.
So you're both feeling instant effects of this poison or whatever it is.
Within minutes of us taking it. So it's very, very fast.
And do you notice that he's affected, or are you so much in your own experience that you're like...
He literally said he couldn't drive.
Well, we were like laughing about it. We're 25. We don't think about death or anything. We just think we're going to live forever. And I'm like laughing like he's kind of drunk on it. And I'm like, look, you can't even stay awake. So I'd even put the car in park for him because he didn't even know. He's just like pulled up and stopped. And I'm like, put it in park. So I put it in park. And I opened the door and I went to go step out. And all of a sudden I was like, whoa, gravity's different on this. I felt like so heavy. And so I felt like I lumbered myself into the restaurant.
It was a Dairy Queen. Let's just call it out. It's such a, you have to say it. It was a Dairy Queen. Yeah.
And for a while it was like the kind of the jinx Dairy Queen. They tore it down. Actually.
No.
Yeah. So how some Dairy Queens were back then.
Yeah.
This is again 2003. The bathroom is right as you walk in the door. So I went straight in that bathroom, and it was a single unit. So I locked the door. And as soon as I got in there, felt like the whole world started to spin on me. And I heard this really loud, like pop, like really loud. And the next thing I know, I can't see anything but just black. And I feel like I'm floating. I feel like I'm warm, I'm electrical, but I'm also really cool. Like it's this weird, like untethered sensation I had never felt. And I'd done quite a bit of substances in my day. And I'm telling you, nothing was holding a candle to what I was feeling.
You said you felt warm and cold and electric.
Warm and cool and electric. And fluid. I felt like I was floating in fluid is what it felt like.
Did you feel pain?
No pain. And that was the first thing I noticed is I was like, whoa, this stuff's really good. I can't feel any pain. Like I thought that. That was one of the thoughts I had in there, is like, there's no pain.
Okay, so but everything's black.
Everything's black. And way off, I can see this little pinprick of light. And it starts getting closer and closer and bigger and bigger. And as it gets bigger and bigger, I'm noticing it's a movie. And I'm looking at a movie, but it's like filmed from the ceiling down. So I'm like, why would the director film looking down. That doesn't make any sense. And I'd worked with like directors and I'd worked as a PA on some shows. And so I was like, that's weird. Why would the DP or the director decide that let's shoot this looking down? That's a dumb way to shoot. And I'm sitting there thinking that, and I start to realize, wait, that's my buddy. And I noticed that in the movie, I was watching my buddy getting taken away and getting an ambulance called on him, loaded in an ambulance, and he gets taken away.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Optimizers.
I struggled to get good quality sleep, and I just thought like, oh, it's stress. But I learned during perimenopause and menopause, your hormones shift and it affects your magnesium levels. Low magnesium makes everything harder, not just sleep, but focus, mood, stress tolerance. That's why we added Magnesium Breakthrough by Optimizers to our nightly routine. It's a blend of 7 different forms of magnesium designed to support relaxation and overall sleep quality. Try it, see if you wake up more rested and refreshed. You've got nothing to lose and a lot to gain. Optimizers offers a 365-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. Magnesium Breakthrough is a fantastic way to improve that hormonal imbalance that especially happens with magnesium. And then you have better focus, you have better sleep hygiene in general. Optimizers makes it so easy. Here's what you get when you go to bioptimizers.com/breaker and use the code BREAKER. 15% off your entire order and a free bottle of Masszymes. That's Bioptimizer's best-selling digestive enzyme added to your order automatically when you use our exclusive code. That's a $20 product free on top of your discount. This is a limited time offer while supplies last. You cannot get this on Amazon. You can't get it in stores. The offer exists in one place. Our link, our code. That's it. So if you were already thinking about trying it, this is the sign. Go to bioptimizers.com/breaker, use the code BREAKER, grab it before it's gone.
Make 2026 the year you finally start sleeping again. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Element.
We are very excited because we love Element, but they've got a new flavor. It is lemonade iced tea. Same great electrolytes and taste, but with black tea extract. So you can get your little caffeine boost without the mid-afternoon energy slump. It turns out caffeine doesn't actually give you energy. It mutes the signal that tells you that you're tired. So when it wears off, that's the crash. Isolated caffeine, the kind that you find in most energy drinks, it hits harder and drops faster because there's nothing in it to kind of smooth that curve. Element Lemonade Iced Tea uses a full black tea extract, caffeine bundled with L-theanine and polyphenols, and a meaningful dose of electrolytes free of sugar, artificial colors, or other dodgy ingredients. It's built on the same formula as Element's core drink mix: sodium, potassium, and magnesium at levels shown to support optimal hydration. The result is a noticeably steadier feeling, less spike, less drop, without the crash that comes from most caffeinated drinks. Get a free 8-count sample pack of Element's most popular drink mix flavors with any purchase at drinkelement.com/Mayim. Find your favorite flavor or share with a friend. No questions asked refunds. Try Element. See how you feel.
If for any reason you're not satisfied, Element's customer service team will take care of you. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Shopify.
Starting something new isn't just hard, it can be downright terrifying. Trust me, I know. When we started this podcast, I didn't even know what I was doing. What if nobody listens to me? What if I make a fool of myself? Now we know we were right in believing in ourselves despite our fears and hesitations. It also helps when you have a partner like Shopify on your side to help like we do. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names to first-time business owners just getting started. Shopify's been our one-stop shop for all of our merch store needs for the past several years now. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. Shopify's packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. It's time to turn those what-ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/breakdown.
Go to shopify.com/breakdown. That's shopify.com/breakdown.
You are in a locked bathroom by yourself.
Yeah.
That's where you fell.
That's where I fell.
That's where your body is.
Yeah.
But you're telling me that your consciousness was outside of the bathroom.
Above the bathroom.
And above the
above the whole
entire
building. Yeah.
scene.
If you were to take the apex of the building, I was in the center of the apex. And I could take my
And you were watching
it
what
all.
was going
Yep.
on.
And wherever my interest went, that's where the camera focus went. So if my interest went over to like a conversation I was listening to over here, and by the way, I was hearing voices spoken and thoughts thought. So all voices I could hear. So the voices of anyone thinking anything within the restaurant and the voices of the conversations. I was
What did
hearing
you
it
hear?
all. So the one that made me laugh is there's this older gentleman with his wife. They were there getting breakfast. She was sitting there talking about her friends or a group of these ladies, and he was like thinking about something not even close to that, kind of like daydreaming, letting his mind wander. And then she asked him, like, well, what do you think about that? And he's like, I need to go use the bathroom. And so he went to go try to use the bathroom.
That your body was in.
That the body was in, yeah. And so the door was locked. So he's like, oh, man. So he waited a few minutes and, that person wasn't coming out.
And you did not realize that was you in the bathroom.
It wasn't me. I was up here. I was like watching everything. I was on this weird camera angle from the director. And I'm just like, this is so weird. And I wasn't even focused so much on the body. I could feel there was like a heaviness there. But in some way, I knew I didn't need to look at it yet. So I was focused on this couple. He goes back down, sits down, and she wants to pick up that conversation. He's like, I need to go tell the manager the bathroom's locked. So he went and told the manager, like, I've tried that a couple times now. I probably didn't see the first time he tried it, but I know I saw at least one time, maybe two, that I saw him get up to try it. And then he went to the manager and said, hey, can you check? That's been locked for a long time.
So you're watching and hearing and experiencing all of these things that are happening outside of the bathroom where your vessel is.
Yes. Yeah.
So then what happens?
So then I follow. Now my focus is on him, at him going to the manager, and the manager going with him and like tapping his key really loud on the door, like, hello, anyone in there? They didn't hear anything. So the manager opens the door, and I'm telling you, the body was like right there in front of the door. And there was vomit all over the face, the stomach, the shoulders. And the weird thing for me is the neck. You know, your neck's at least a little bit smaller than your jaw. It was almost wider than the jaw.
Like it had swollen up.
It had swollen so wide already. And I'm like, that's a bad Hollywood job. That's not even a real body. Whoever's doing this movie's not very good. I remember having a thought like that.
It is still not clicking for you. What's
not
happening?
even close yet. Yeah. So but I can feel still sadness, and I can feel like a sincere fear from this manager. And I heard his mom like telling him in his own voice, like, you need to get out of that job. You're never going to make it anywhere if you don't quit that job and go back to school and blah, blah, blah. And he was like hearing that on repeat while he was looking at all of this. And he doesn't know what to do. And then he thinks, oh, I need to call 911. So he calls to his assistant manager with this like 16 or 17-year-old girl, tells her to call 911. Then
they already knew they had another body that had gone to the hospital.
Yes.
Your friend.
Yeah, but they didn't. So the people didn't see us coming together because we didn't.
Right.
I came in first. He came in second. And he went in and collapsed on a booth and vomited in front of everybody. So he was a quick one to recognize and get out of there. But the manager, he's looking at this dead body, and he thinks about it for a second. And I actually heard him think, I don't want to touch that. So he goes to the assistant manager and says, give me the phone. You need to go work on the body. Because they're like, feel for a pulse. Whatever the 911 operator was saying to do, he was speaking it to this assistant. And she got to a point where she went to touch like the neck, and she felt like cold and slimy. And she even said out loud, so loud that the 911 operator heard it. And as soon as that operator heard that, she said, stop everything you're doing, lock down the room, don't let anyone else in. We've called police and medics. Whoever gets there first, let them have access to it.
So you're just watching all this, and you're
still
looking down
watching
at this poor body that looks like a bad
You know what's really
makeup
funny
job.
is at this point, I'm like, I think I'm in a theater. this is probably the most comfortable theater I've ever been in. Because I felt so at ease and I felt so comforted. Because this is a scary situation, especially, I don't know why my consciousness wasn't putting two and two together that my real friend just got taken away. And now I'm looking at this bad Hollywood job of a body. And it just didn't, because me was up here. It was. I equate it to pulling up to a stoplight in your car, and you look over and you see your same car over there, and you see you driving it. But you're like, that's not me though. I'm in this car. And that's what it felt like. I'm like, well, not even a possibility that it was me.
So what happened next?
Well, one thing I don't tell a lot of people about, but was right then, this other worker at the restaurant was like running around, dead body, dead body, dead body. And she went running back to the cook, like the fry chef. And was like, there's a dead body back there. And this guy, he had grown up in Mexico and had seen a lot of death himself. And he thought out loud, I don't need to see one more dead body in my life
And you
ever again.
heard that.
And I heard that, yeah. And he was like, no. And this other, youngin was just still running around trying to tell everybody there's a dead body in there. And I don't know why. Is maybe her way of dealing with shock or whatever it was. But I'm again just interested in what's going on in the scene. I watch as this other ambulance pulls up. The second ambulance has 3 workers though, 3 medics. So it has 2 from the 2 front seats and has 1 rookie who is sitting in the back with like the gurneys, what they call like the jump seat. And I noticed that this rookie, he had like an innocence about him. He was definitely younger than the other 2, but he had this like freshness with the approach to being a medic, an EMT. And they get on scene right away. They check vitals, nothing. They put this like oxygen feeder in to try to hand pump oxygen into the lungs. No change. They recorded time of death. They put the body in a body bag. And I'm starting to realize this is a real situation though, because the reaction of everyone around it. I'm noticing it's not acting. That this is real. This is freaking people out. I feel so bad for this guy, whoever he is. And he has a really thick neck. I just keep remembering. He has a really thick neck. and I grew up with He-Man characters.
Yeah.
And I had a guy named Manny Faces who had a really thick neck like that. And I just kept thinking, oh, this poor guy looked like Manny Faces. Probably nobody could fall in love with that guy anyway. That's probably why he's dead. And
Whoa.
I'm just witnessing all of this and realizing, I still want to follow whatever this is. And so I had tried to follow my buddy's ambulance away from the scene, but I was pulled back. Like it didn't allow me to leave the building. I could still look that direction as it drove away, but I couldn't go with it. So I was wondering, I'm like, oh, I hope I can go with this one. And it did allow me to go with this one. They went ahead and collected witness statements. They were there for at least another 30 minutes, getting statements, getting paperwork signed by everyone.
It was zipped up?
It was already zipped up, put in the back of the ambulance. Yeah. And the rookie was tasked, his job was to sit back there, don't touch it, and don't let anyone else touch it. That was his only job. And so he's sitting back there. I can hear him thinking, why didn't we try this? Why don't we try this? I just learned about this new thing we don't do yet. Why don't we try that? And he's just thinking through this like little laundry list. Why don't we try any of these other things? I was trained that there's possible we might be able to bring this guy back. And they were like, nope, don't touch it. Don't touch it. And don't let anyone else touch it.
And you still are thinking, who is this
Poor guy.
man?
Poor bastard. That's what
Poor guy that no one's helping.
Yeah. And I'm sitting here just not necessarily entertained, but invested now. I'm invested in what this story is. And so I watched the other 2, the veteran medics. They get all the paperwork they can. They taking their time, get in the ambulance, and they're like, okay, we're going to such and such medical examiner. And they plotted the route. This is back when they were using map books. So they plotted their route and they started going on their route.
What's your view now? Are you still above what's
I'm
happening?
still above all of it, but now I can go with the ambulance. So I did notice I could go with that ambulance. And I thought, oh, good. I don't have to miss out what's going on.
No,
over
we
here.
don't want you
Yeah.
to miss a second of
Yeah.
this.
And how long from the time that you passed out in the bathroom?
What time was death declared?
So time of death was declared at a specific time, and my buddy's ambulance was called almost, it was like 50 or 55 minutes before that. So it was a good long time, but the door was locked. So the one question is, how long was I dead? Nobody knows that one.
Well, sometime between you entering the DQ, right?
Yes.
Going into the like that's the pocket of time. But we're working on at least an hour that
least
you
an
are
hour.
dead.
At least an hour. Yeah.
And do we know how long from the time they put you in the body bag till you're driving or till you're driving in the ambulance?
I know that it was probably at least 25 to 40 minutes. Because where I was, there was no time anymore. So you were just kind of like watching things go.
Once they zipped up the body, it was
Yeah.
then put in the ambulance, and then they collected all the witness statements because
Yep.
they think they have a corpse
Yep.
and it can just sit there. And
Mhm.
you're watching the whole thing happen.
Yep.
So then whoever you are, your consciousness, I don't know what
Yeah.
to call it, is now in the ambulance.
Yes.
You're
I like
in
to
the
call it my
back?
energetic body.
Okay.
Because that's what our consciousness is. It's just energy. It's our energetic
You
body.
know better than we
Yeah.
do, but yes. So you're in the ambulance. You still don't understand who that body is.
I don't understand it, but I noticed some very cool new thing happening. And that rookie medic, as he's just still feeling really bad that he can't try any of these things that he wants, he starts to glow from inside him. He literally starts to have light coming out of him. And I'm watching it just around his heart area. He gets really, really bright gold color. And I'm like, what is this? And you know, the show that I had worked on was Touched by an Angel.
Oh.
And we would do the light above the head.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's an odd way of doing it. How did they do that? Then I'm thinking, who's the prop guy? Who's the FX guy that was able to rig that light to come out of him? That's so cool. And I'm thinking it from that perspective, like, this is neat. I've never seen this in a movie before.
No.
And I hear really loud as I'm having this like movie nerd thought. I have this energy pass over me where I am sitting and watching this movie. I have this huge energy pass over me, and I feel it hit him. And then I hear really loud, "This one's not dead." Then nothing.
Whose voice was it?
I'm going to say a helper, a worker, source,
Okay.
whatever we want to call it.
Okay.
But it was
Not your voice.
I would say peoples on this earth, if they heard that voice, they would worship it.
Whoa.
It was powerful. You could feel that it was commanding the universe to do something.
Okay.
And this guy, this rookie, I know he heard it or felt it. Later on, I tracked him down. He said he didn't hear it, but he said he just knew something. But I heard it really loud. And I also heard his mind kick in and say, that's just your imagination. Don't get fired on your first week. So then we keep going down the road, like another half block or block. And now this light gets even brighter, and it starts glowing all the way to his waist to about here. But it was so bright, it was like giving, you know how light, when it hits the body, it gives like shadows? It's giving like shadows to the top of his head because it was so bright coming from down here. And I'm like, again, nerding out. That is so cool. It's even brighter. How are they doing that? Is that like some kind of weird CG we don't know about yet? And I'm just enamored with this simple little thing. And then I heard again, as if another force passed over me. And I heard even louder this time. I felt like it rumbled me. And it said, "This one's not dead." And he heard it. I know he heard it. Because as soon as he heard it, he reached for the strap around the dead body and undid one strap. He unzipped the body or the bag from the head all the way down to about right here where there was another strap. and he zipped it just to there and was like slipping his hand inside the body bag, feeling around the neck, feeling around the jaw. He was trying to get any sign of life, any sign of pulse. He even reached like under the armpit, and that was kind of under the strap that was right there. He realized he couldn't do it with the strap, so he undid the second strap, opened the body bag further. He felt in the underarm, nothing. In fact, one thing he did start, I heard him think, oh, rigor mortis has started. Like he felt stiffness or hardness in some of those muscles.
And like, how could this body be alive?
Yeah.
If
But yet,
we're, right.
he wasn't going to second guess whatever that thing was that was speaking to him. So he went to what the last spot. He had to do one more strap, and that was to get down into the thigh area. And yeah, and so he was feeling for the femoral artery, and he went to one direction of the femur, didn't feel anything. He went to the other direction and pushed really hard, and he made contact with the bone in the body. He pushed that hard. And as soon as he did, there was like a spark, like a shock. And he jumped. And I jumped though, because it wasn't me like feeling empathy towards him. I felt like somebody shocked me. And as soon as he felt that shock, I heard his mind go into gear. This is what you do now. This is what you do now. And he had all these lists. He was like rattling out in his brain. And so he went to go clear the throat for oxygen. And he hooked up a defib on the body. And at this same time, those veteran medics start noticing what he's doing. They're like, dude, you're fired. You're going to get fired. First week on the job. Good job, dude. And they were like just chewing him out. And he didn't listen. Didn't even care. He went ahead and did that first round of defib, nothing.
Didn't he also put a trach in?
So what's weird is when I came out, I had a little scab where a trach might have been.
Oh, got it.
But he remembered it as feeding like a hard hose down the throat. So I don't know.
Okay.
You know, and they wouldn't let me, because of liability, they wouldn't let me get access to their whole records. I only got a bill that said it was like taking you for a block and a half for $1,100 in 2003. That would be like $3,300 today to drive you a block and a half in an ambulance. And so
there's no clause for if you're dead and come back from the dead?
Nope.
Okay,
Yeah,
just checking.
I feel like if you come back from the dead, your bill should be wiped.
It should be wiped.
I feel like if you could hear God's thoughts.
Maybe it should be doubled, right? If you come back alive. But, you know, he went and let the second round of defib hit.
Did you, what did you experience, the you that was watching?
I had like anticipation. I was excited. I was invested in this
movie. Did you
movie.
feel
No.
You did not feel any electric
shock. Any of the shocks, yeah.
Okay.
So no shocks, couldn't feel those. Funny how I felt the spark before, but I didn't feel any of the shocks, not any of them. And that second round of shocks, there was a single blip on the heart monitor. Just a single boop, boop.
Yep.
And then flatline. And that got the other two medics just shut up. They shut up right there. Because to them, even that's not possible.
Correct.
So he went for a third round on the defib. And on that third round, heart started full. It was a faint, but it was a steady heartbeat. And it started. And, you know, that changed everything. One of the miracles to all this is there was a brand new, just opened in like the last 6 months or last year of this date. There's a hospital opened right where this happened. And so they were within seconds of that heart starting. They were at a trauma center with a team that had nothing to do because of a brand new hospital, and they wanted to work on this body.
Do you still not realize that you are
Still
that
don't
dead
know.
body?
Not yet. I'm about to, though. I'm really close. So they transfer the body from the hospital or from the EMT gurney onto hospital bed or ICU bed or whatever. As they were doing that transfer, the body went into full seizure. And it was like vomiting. There was stuff coming out of like the ears, stuff coming out of the nose, just weird places. Even I remember there's something coming out of one of the eyes. And like that just looked horrible. And I'm like, I'm like cringing and thinking like, this looks real. And they're trying to get control of this body so they can start doing the things they need to do. So this one really strong, not medic, but maybe orderly or something from the hospital, he starts strapping down the legs of the body. Then he goes around, straps down the right arm. Then he went to strap down the left arm. And I was like, what's going on? I looked down at my left arm and I could look and see a strap on my arm. And I could see it was like this weird strap. They were trying to strap me to my seat in my movie theater, per se. And so I was like, no. And I yanked like this. And I was still watching the movie, and I watched the body resist the strap and actually break it. And I was like, what? And all of a sudden this like deep, dark energy starts pouring in me. You idiot. You've been watching your own death this whole time. How could you not know that what you've been witnessing was your body? Duh, it was with your friend. Why didn't you see that? And it was like kind of like a kid just not even being aware of something. I felt so dumb. And right then I started to rewind time in my consciousness. I went back to infant and I started going forward really fast, and I started seeing anything bad or something that I ever did, or if it was even received badly, like anything negative energy that I influenced on this universe. I saw it, I felt it from my perspective, I felt it from the perspective of whoever it hurt too, and got all the way through that to my 25th year. And then I just had this thought, like, I'm such a POS. If this is all that I am, why do I even exist? If this is me, if this is the film of Vinney, why do I exist? And as soon as I had that thought, this like waterfall of warmth came over my back, and it's almost like it enveloped me like a cloak, but a cloak of light. And it was a cloak of warmth and love, and it completely enveloped me. And it took my consciousness back to the beginning again, and it started showing me all the good things I ever did. And there was like so much more. And I was, as a little kid, I was a really heartfelt kid and, extremely abused. So I would always know when people were hurting. And so I would like go and just say kind things to them. Strangers, homeless people, whatever. Even like a lady who I could feel was like hurting inside at the grocery store. I go say nice things, and sorry, I didn't take a drink. It was like this love. It was like pouring in me so strong. And I had forgotten what it was like to be that innocent, that kind. And I like ached inside for that again. And I saw as an adult, I went and did a service mission for 2 years. I went and like taught, third world country English and sanitation, and taught, Bible, and taught like even literacy. I taught literacy to people that hadn't had it for 2 generations. And I just felt like there was a lot of good that Vinney had done. And I just felt like, how can I feel this love this strong? And so I turned around to see where it was coming from. And there's this man, he's like a beautiful man, just this like old white man, like fairly tall, big broad shoulders. And he's all dressed in white, but he's got like this white robe on, but a white suit underneath. He's got a long white beard and long white hair. And he has this face where it's like when your eyes connect to his, it's like his eyes reach in and just hold you. And when I felt that, I was like, you're God. And he just like smirked or smiled. And was like, no, son, I'm not God. And growing up Christian, my only other thought was, are you Jesus? And he goes, no, son, I'm not Jesus. And I go, well,
It's like, I'm all out of guesses.
who are you? And he said, I'm your guide. I'm here to guide you to go wherever you want to go.
Okay, I need to ask a question. what was happening in the physical world at this time? Because once you noticed that your feeling of resistance of that arm was you, did that go away and
Completely. As soon as I turned
Got
away
it.
from my shadow, it turned me away from my body. Yeah.
So what we can tell people is that your body was taken into the hospital.
Yes.
And you were in a coma.
Coma, brain dead for 3 days. Yeah.
And you're hanging out with your spirit guide.
Yeah. With my spirit guide.
Better than the waiting room?
Way better. Way better. And way better than anything we could ever do here.
So how long, and I know this is a silly question, but I'm going to ask you to explain why it's silly. How long did you then embark on the experience that you're going to tell us about? Do you know how long you were gone?
I feel like the experience was pretty much the whole entire time I was gone.
Did it feel like 3 days? Did you go to sleep?
Back when it happened, you could say, Vinney, did it feel like 10 years? I would say yes. Then you could say, did it feel like 10 hours? And I'd say yes. Because there's no time there. It's just this ability to take things in. We use time here to measure and gauge our ability to take things in, experience things. But there, everything is omnipresent. So like you can take in years of existence and experience in a matter of a breath there. It's just instant. It's kind of like our download speed with technology now becomes instant. What used to take 10 hours just a few years ago. It's really crazy. I'm sitting there watching this guy still like, I think he's God. He's just not telling me the truth. I really am thinking that. And it's weird because I know he can hear me think that because he would smile it when I would think that. But
and you didn't need to speak, correct?
No, you don't use your mouth there because you're not in your physical vessel anymore. So your thought is your voice.
Did you have a body that you could see?
Energetic body. Yeah. And it looked just like what I looked like. The one weird thing is I wasn't wearing shoes. Now, the body had shoes on, at least when I went in that bathroom I did. You know, by the time I woke up a few days later, of course,
you were in hospital
gown and no shoes or even socks on.
So you and your guide are shoeless.
Yes.
Put off thy shoes. The land you're standing on is hallowed. That's what God says from the burning bush.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You hadn't thought about that?
No, that's awesome.
I
never
put
thought
off thy
about
shoes.
That.
Yeah.
Because you're an extension of that place.
Yeah. You're in hallowed ground.
That's your charging port.
Correct.
Your feet are your charging port.
Yeah, you're connecting to the mother. Yeah. Okay, keep going.
I love that.
I thought that's what you thought.
That's so awesome. I never put that together. Yeah.
I mean, or Shoeless Joe from Hannibal, Missouri. He was a baseball player who played without shoes. Okay, keep going.
Yeah.
So you're with your guide.
So I'm with my guide. He did tell me his name is Drake.
Drake.
Yeah. And I'm like,
Like the hip hop artist?
Yeah, kind of, but it's funny that was 2003, so that was long before he came around.
Drake.
Yeah, but just Drake.
Got it.
I had never known anyone in my life known Drake prior to that. So it's like, okay, that's a kind of an odd name, but I could feel though this untethered outpouring of love coming from him on everything we were doing. He explained that the love that was coming from him was coming from his home and from my home. And he said, I can help you go there if you want. And I said, yes, that's where I want to go. I don't want to go back to my body. I know for sure I don't want that. And there was no question, especially when he had given me the idea, do you want to go back to your body? I looked back and they were just in the middle of like stabbing something directly into the chest. Like it was like a big syringe or something. And it just, again, I did not want anything to do with that. So I went ahead and said, no, let's go home. I want to go home. So we started this journey. First thing he told me is it's not going to be just a journey of distance, but it's going to be a journey of dimension and vibration. And that I would have to keep up with him if I want to get all the way to home. And if I can't, he'll stay with me, but I have to be willing to accept certain things, not to fully embrace them, but accept that they're possibly true. And as long as I did that, I could keep going with him. So first thing he taught me is, he asked me, what do you think the most important thing in this life is? And I'm like, love. I know that's what you're going to say. Love. Everybody says it's love. And he's like, love, it is very important. But in this realm, and he called it Earth School. He said, in Earth School, the most important thing is authenticity. And I'm like, I'm authentic. And he goes, I love that you think you're authentic. And he showed me when I would meet with this friend, I had a mask. With my mom, had a mask. With my dad, had a different mask. With my siblings, probably 5 masks. I had all these masks I was putting up everywhere I went. And he showed me it wasn't the mask that I think I needed. It was the mask I thought that they wanted. And I was always becoming who I thought they wanted. Like I was some type of Swiss Army knife to become a screwdriver or a knife or a spoon or a fork.
Or that cute little toothpick.
Or the cute little toothpick that everyone loses. Or the tweezers. Yeah. And it's like I saw that in myself. So I said, well, how do you get authenticity? And he explained that, when we first come here, we're very authentic as children. And until we're about 5 years old and start getting a kind of a good rooted ego in us, we're still very authentic. Like we say what we believe. We even say the mean stuff if we have to, but then we'll say, but I love you, and give a hug. Like we don't use necessarily the same tools that we use as adults or adolescents. So very young kids are that way. And then he showed me that very old people are that way. Like in their, mid to late 80s or 90s, they're very authentic.
They don't have time for nonsense.
They're not going to placate you for anything. If they don't want to be there, they're not going to be there, But if they want to be there, like at ice cream lunch, they'll go have ice cream for lunch. Like, there's this authenticity with them. But I noticed that here we are, age 5 to 85, we're putting up all these masks in between. And Drake showed me that this is a thrown away space. That when we cannot be authentic, we cannot authentically love anyone, and we especially can't authentically love ourselves. And if we can't love ourselves, we cannot love anyone. We have no power of love towards anyone unless we love self first. And he showed me that when we pretend to love, we reflect love, but we don't source love from us unless we feel that love for ourselves. And just like kids.
And you can't feel that love for yourself if you're constantly thinking, how do I tiptoe around someone and not be my authentic self so I avoid conflict and I don't hurt their feelings and I just trying to, manage everything.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's like, we got to get over this idea that we are as valuable as what others think we are, because we're far more valuable than all that from the beginning. And in fact, spirits used a specific term with me a lot, and they call it a divine masterwork. And that's all of us. We're a divine masterwork. And that led me to the next thing that Drake taught me is he said, Vinney, do you know why you come to Earth School? And I was like, yeah, I know why. It's so we can, go to the courtroom of life. If we fail, we go to hell. If we pass, we go to heaven and just hang out forever. And he again said, I love that you think that's what it is. But he showed me that long before we came here, long before our energetic body was able to earn its way, work its way to here, we did a lot of hard work. We did a lot of the energetic stuff that a soul or an energetic body needs to do to even get to Earth. And Earth is a reward, but Earth is not a courtroom. It's a classroom. And in fact, better yet, it's a school box, like a playground for us to come and play, to learn how to love each other, learn how to love ourselves, learn how to create relationships, how to use our thoughts to create, and use the power of us to build energy in this space. And that's all it is. It's more of a reward than anything. And that we had to do so much before we got here that, there's a big part of the universe that wants to come here. They can't. They can't cut the mustard. You got to be really good to get here. This is like the
grad school.
This is like the grad school of like the, this is the place that everyone wants to go because it's so respected. Because only like the finest, most well-developed souls can even try it out here.
What about people that we would see as, let's say, doing prickly things or breaking the law or hurting other people? What is their lesson here?
Well, a lot of them, from my perspective, is some of them are volunteer villains. So they go into contract with loved ones, loved souls, and say, "Okay, guys, you made this goal with Source that you want to get all of this growth, but you're not going to be able to do that without a central villain in the story. So I love you more than anyone else does, so I'll be that villain." And everyone agrees to it. That one comes here, becomes the villain, kind of like the flint to sharpen the steel, the grinding stone to sharpen the steel, or better yet, the furnace to harden the steel. But yeah, it's and that's not everybody, but that's a lot of them. A lot of the ones that it doesn't look like they're here for their own journey necessarily, because they're so far off in what they're doing. And some of them, that is their journey. They've been the hero, they've been the bad guy, they've been the good guy, and now they just want to be like a lost drug addict for this life, because that's the one role they have never played. And that's this soul's desire. It's like the missing piece from their puzzle that they feel they need for their wholeness. And maybe it's to feel more empathy towards other times where they had judged people like that too. And they want to redeem themselves of that judging, so go be that person. So it's so much bigger than what we can understand, because we're so focused. I like to say, if you know the Voyager satellite, if you were to put a string on it and drop a single grain of sand on that string, and those who know how far the Voyager is out there right now would know like how long that is, okay? That grain of sand is our time here. Who we are, that string. But we go out further past the Voyager. There's no end to who we are.
Did you see any information about people like lining up to come to Earth? You mentioned that we had to do a lot of work in order to get to Earth in the first place.
I could sense it. I couldn't see it, but I definitely sensed it when Drake was explaining it to me, that it was a really hard thing to achieve, to be able to come here and play, like really hard. And in fact, a lot of us have many loved souls that are in other spaces that are envious of us here. And we're representing that whole group of souls as their representative, their volunteer to come here and play in the dirty sandbox. Yeah.
Does Earth have a waiting list?
Yes. 1,000,000% yes. Yeah.
It feels like an elite operation.
It is. And here's the funny thing. Earth is something that's been around far longer than science can explain. Far longer. Way longer. I mean, times 100 times what we think it's been.
Do we think that there were populations and
Yes. That's why in Genesis, one of the first commandments, right, is to multiply and replenish the earth. Not plenish the earth. Replenish. And which time around are we in? We'd have to be up there to know. But I know it's not the first, and I know it possibly the last, but I don't think it's the last. Because I think the earth is this divine tool. From my perspective, it's this divine tool that does all these cycles for us. And then when it gets ready to graduate, it graduates a piece of its own self into a higher place with us who are ready to do it on it. And then it goes back to its lower self, where it picks up more volunteers, more of those who feel called to come and play. Yeah.
So in terms of the evolution, when we think of the formation or the creation of human beings, the evolution, it could have been that the earth had just wiped itself clean from one of its cycles, and there was a whole world before that, maybe multiple times over and over and over again, and we're just seeing a tiny glimpse into the past.
It's described as epochs, that these big periods are epochs, or EPOCH. And these epochs could be, 40,000 years. They could be 4 million years. They could be just very large numbers. On a little tangent, you can do a little studying into the Syrian list of kings and see kings that lived for like 30, 40,000 years recorded, and that's either really hard work on a board sculptor or actual dictation. Yeah.
You've talked a little bit about a few of the lessons. In their entirety, what you were walked through was 10 lessons, correct?
10 lessons, yeah.
And these were things that once you came back, you were able to start articulating.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And I didn't even know there was 10 until we wrote the book.
Right.
When we wrote the book, my co-author / real author, he's like, dude, there's 10 principles here. I'm like, really? No. And he's like, repeat them. Say them out loud. So I did. And he's like, look, that's 10. And I just never dawned on me that there was 10 very strong principles in there.
So the first was be authentic.
Yeah.
The second is understand the purpose of life. The third is love everyone.
That was the big one. Yeah.
The fourth is listen to your inner voice. The fifth is use technology responsibly, which actually is less about technology, but more about how you can open up your ability to receive the kind of energy and information you want, right?
Yes. I want to go back to just that inner voice one real quick.
Yeah, for sure.
That's okay. So I knew I had an inner voice. I had heard it. There was times where, as abused kids, the demand performance to deliver the performance that your abuser needs, you would just know things. It was almost like a quantum consciousness. You would just grab it out of and do it, and it would be the exact right thing. And even as a kid, I could pass almost any test without studying 1 minute, especially if it was multiple choice. I could usually get an 80% or higher and get that 80%, not even reading the questions. And that was just part of my, I called it my inner voice or my intuition. But I thought everybody had it like that. But as I got older, I realized not a lot do. But we all do have that intuition. It's really strong in us when we're little. That's why as kids, they know when mom and dad are suffering and they come over and offer solace, without us asking them. They just feel it. They have a very strong inner voice. And to me, what it is, they're plugged into that quantum field very strongly. And then as we get more unplugged from that field and more plugged into the distraction of life here, that's when that inner voice gets smaller and smaller. And that's the technology. For us, when I was really young, technology was like the movie theater or an Atari or a Nintendo 64 or original Nintendo. It's like that was technology to me as a kid. But now it's insane because even back then, you could still have religion where you would turn to your source morning and night and then still have your technology. But now, where is your technology? It's in the place of source. Because when you wake up, it's right there. When you're about to go to bed, it's right there. So this becomes our new God. And that's what he was talking about. And again, this is 2003, and that was not a place where this was possible.
Sure.
I mean, even like Blackberries were not a thing yet.
No.
Some people were using Palm Pilots a lot, and it's just.
If they had a holster, you couldn't trust them.
Yeah, the holster would always break. And then people were still using beepers back then in 2003. Yeah. There was always that one odd person that had like 5 beepers, and it's just like, oh,
that's
I know
where
what
you
they
get
do.
the drugs.
Yeah. I didn't understand it then. And of course, over time, that's digested really well. And that technology becomes an enemy to the inner voice. Mm-hmm. And it does. And you know what's sad is it also becomes an enemy to our relationships. It does. When you see a family sitting down for dinner, texting each other, quibs and comments, and not using even the connection, it's like, why even fake like you're connecting then? But yet everyone says, well, technology brings the whole world right to your doorstep. It does by putting you inside a hermit's cave. Even if you're surrounded by loved ones, you're in a hermit cave with technology. It keeps you from your own emotions.
After technology, release prejudice.
That one was a whopper for me.
Yeah, talk a little bit about.
I grew up with two Asian sisters who, a predominantly Caucasian community. They were made fun of. I was much younger than them, but it didn't stop me from trying to get in fights with boys twice my size because they were making fun of my sisters. And, I felt like that was God giving me these amazing gifts. And I love my sisters. I love my birth sister, but also my adopted sisters. And I love my brother too, which I'll talk about more later. But I knew that I didn't have prejudice. I just felt it. I'm like, Drake, I don't have prejudice. We can just move on. And as soon as he said that, he goes, I love that you think that, Vinney. But what do you think about prejudiced people? And I remember rising up my energy, and I started to like boil my energy. And I noticed our progress almost halted right there.
Because you were moving with him.
I was boiling
right.
my energy, getting upset. And I said, I hate prejudiced people. They're so closed-minded. They're so ignorant. They don't understand people. They need to grow up. And he showed me in like a little cartoon in my mind that I was cartoon Vinney on non-prejudice side. And as I started to like, rah, 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 he like lifted me up and brought me over to prejudice side and put me down. And he showed me like, sit down sad, that if I was going to hate prejudiced people, then I was prejudice. I don't have to agree with them, but I'm not supposed to hate them.
Energetically, it's
because
not,
it
right.
itself is prejudice. So you can't be anti-prejudice and not be prejudiced. Just even though we can, align, like, let's not have prejudice. Let's have love and embracement. That rules out all prejudice, right? And so that was a big one for me. And as soon as I accepted it, though, I felt that momentum come back and we were moving again. Yeah.
So it sounds like every time you hear a truth or are able to soak something in, there's like movement. You're moving through.
And it's almost like velocity goes faster as soon as I just accept that it's possible. And again, just like Drake had said, I didn't have to believe it was my truth, but I needed to believe that it itself was possibly true.
I mean, it reminds me of how things operate here. There's a parallel. Like the more we say something is totally unsubstantiated, or I can't believe something, or my mind is closed, or I'm fighting the signs that the universe is giving me, I'm in resistance and I'm like putting the brakes on and life kind of grinds to a halt versus I open my mind a little bit. I may not agree with everything, but if I'm able to explore it, all of a sudden I'm moving.
Yeah, exactly.
The other lessons were exercise the power of creation,
which is our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Anything we think, we can create. And if we think and put our thoughts behind something long enough, the rest of our physical energy will join in, and then we can actually create it.
Avoid negative influences and understand the purpose of evil.
Yeah, the negative influences are something that lower our vibration. And when we have a low vibration, we feel sad, we feel depressed, our cortisol levels go up. I mean, it's predominantly bad everywhere in this world right now. And that's because there's so much negative. I have a client that is our content director for a major cable. And he was telling me that his calls from high up in his corporation have said, like, we need this many violent movies. We need this many dramas with no hope and no positive outcomes. We need to have sex, drugs, and rock and roll in so many of these movies this month. And he says it's weird because the months that have religious holidays, and doesn't matter the religion, they double down with more negative. And then the seasons where you already have a lot of negative stuff out there, like October, all your Halloween stuff, it's everywhere, right? So then on Halloween, it goes to more the kid, happy, friendly stuff, right? And then Christmas, you get both. You get lots of good, and then as soon as it goes night, they got to sprinkle in like the Christmas horror movies, right? And it's really interesting that there's an actual directive to the directors who are choosing these programs.
So when we think that our reality is being influenced by the media around us, even if we're not actively watching it, we're seeing the thumbnails, we're seeing the movie titles. If you're scrolling on TV or if you're looking on a subscription channel, all of that stuff that's being actively placed is controlling how we feel about the world around us.
Well, think about this. Every show on TV, every show, and a lot of the shows that you have on your phone, including on YouTube, have a script writer. Even the reality shows.
Mostly the reality shows.
They all do. And even the live on the street ones have script writers. Yeah.
There's a narrative, you know.
That's why they call it his story. But you know, if you went to an earlier epoch, they called it her story.
The last lesson that you learned was know that we are all one. Talk a little bit about this final lesson. And I also just want to mention, I mean, get this book because each of these lessons has so many important details. Like I can't do it justice, but I just want to encourage people to read through each of them because there's so many tidbits. There's so many things in every single lesson that it's really mind-blowing. But I want you to talk about the last one because I want you to then take us into how you said goodbye to Drake and what happened next.
Well, I'll step in with that last, we're all one. And the one right before that, purpose of evil. I had an uncle that was an atheist, and he was 10 times closer to me than my own father. I loved that man more than I could love any man in this world as a kid. He would come and save me from my life for a week or a month, or fly me out to his place, and we go literally swim with dolphins in a rehabilitation tank. And you know, he was a geologist, and he really was an inspiring male figure for me. And at this moment, I'm hearing there's purpose and evil, and I'm like, well, what about my Uncle Chuck? He hated you. He hated God. He hated all of this. Because if there was a God, how could he allow these bad things to happen? And Drake showed me. He said that if we come here and we don't have evil as a choice, there's no reason to come. It's like, how can you build muscle without tearing the muscle? It's the tear that builds the muscle. And for our souls, we have to come to a place where we can choose between good and evil. But when you remove evil as an option, there is no choice. And that's how it was before we came here. When we're with our source, we're at such a high vibration. Anything source wants, we're already wanting unanimously with our source. So there's no differentiation. We have to leave home. We have to go to college. We have to go to earth school just to figure out who we are, what we are, and we have to choose. And yes, that means some of us choosing evil, but it's important for us to have that choice. Now, the sad thing is, the more evil you see, the more evil there is impregnating the society and systems that are portraying themselves as not evil. So in history, when you see really evil characters popping up in history, they're showing up like a pimple to the underlying problem. And that's what also brings around the allied forces, the alignment, the unification, because there is this supreme villain everyone wants to get rid of. And so there's this unification that comes. So evil does a lot of good at the same time as it does do bad. It does. But there's good in us that happens because of that evil. And especially when we make it happen never again. When we say, not while I'm alive. I will stand up. I will make sure that never happens again.
It's heavy. It's heavy because of where the world is now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's heavy because of, it's not a political statement, but it's heavy because there's a tremendous amount of confusion right now over who's the good guy and who's the bad guy.
By design. By design. Everyone, no matter what team you're on, you think the other team is the demon devil. And it doesn't matter what team. And what's sad is that's telling us, go outsource all your solutions to these crazy whack jobs way out here on both sides of life. Don't go to the common center where 98% of you are. Yeah, you could draw a line in the middle, but even that line, a lot of you flex back and forth on certain things. So 98% of us are common with that we want to raise families or have freedom to have families if we want, or to raise kids or not raise kids if we want, but have a life and have the ability to live that life on our own terms. And that's the basic fundamentals of living on earth. And yet you get that almost everywhere, except for maybe a few countries, but yet this chaos is everywhere. And rather than wake up to this common light that we all have, we're enamored with the gods we pray to. Yeah.
Take us from "we are all one," which was the last lesson that you learned, to hearing your brother's voice.
Drake said that we're all fingers on one hand, all of us. Doesn't matter what country, what religion, what race, doesn't matter who you are. Even he explained even animals and plants and earth, we're all fingers on the Creator's hands, the hand that writes the story, and that we can't hurt each other without hurting our Creator and without hurting us. And he taught me something as the principle of the pointed finger. Whenever we point our finger at somebody, we're pointing 3 fingers back at ourselves, but also pointing equal blame to our source. So there's no way to point negative outwardly. But if we point positive outwardly, like, wow, you did a great job, that's bringing in positive energy, sending up positive energy. Yeah. So that pointed finger is very powerful in the positive, but also very powerful in the negative to tear us down.
Sure.
So that was another tool that I learned as we were finishing this journey. And as we were finishing the journey, we're approaching this expansive place, just gigantic, like bigger than I thought was even possible in this universe. It felt like this space. I can't even call it a planet because it's so large. It feels like you could put multiple suns across it, like multiple of our suns. It feels like you could put probably thousands or millions of our Earths inside of it, easy, just to cross it across one circumference. I knew it was just vastly larger than anything I could comprehend, anything that I think we even have comprehension of in this universe. And I noticed that I could see this beautiful landscape off in the distance. And as we got closer and closer, I was really focusing in on this grass, and I didn't understand yet why, but we got closer and closer and closer. And then I felt as my toes came down and like intertwined with the grass and stood in the grass. And as soon as I did, it went back to that same feeling I felt when I had that life review, and I felt this overwhelming love pour over me. I felt again, just this rush of unconditional love coming into me from my feet. And the only thing I can think of is like, but why? I don't deserve this. I know I don't deserve this. And they just kept speaking to me. The grass would speak. Every blade had a voice, or a thought at least. And you can hear the thought. And so I could hear them say, because you're you, because you're Vinney. And I kept hearing it again and again. And that's when I noticed that the grass itself had the most sweet, sweet flavor. And I was tasting it through my energetic toes.
Whoa.
And it had this aroma that felt like very florally, but also very earthy. And it had just all these smells that were beautiful with it. And I noticed that every single blade had like a tone, like a musical tone, and that all of them together were like a concert, like an orchestra. And so I'm just absorbing all of this, and it's almost too much, really. Like I'm trying to take it all in. I'm bawling, but there when you bawl, you just like glow brighter. You know, here when we cry, we get tears and waterworks, that kind of thing. There when you do the crying energy, you just like glow brighter. So I was glowing like so bright.
I'd be so bright there.
And I had this feeling like I'm so glad I'm home. I'm so glad I'm home. And I'd done quite a bit of recreational drugs in my life. And I noticed that right then and there, this is what we're chasing with those drugs. We're chasing one of these blades of grass.
Chasing home.
We're smoking the wrong grass. You know, I was just enthralled by this grass, and Drake came over to me and goes, "If you like the grass, you should see the flowers." And I just freaked out. I'm like, "There's flowers, what?" And I'm not a flower guy. I was an amateur bodybuilder, working in movies and stuff here and there, TV shows here and there. I was not
A grass
a
and flowers
flower guy. Yeah. But yet I was like, "There's flowers. Yes, I want to see the flowers." And he took my consciousness and like put it on a flower, like somehow made me small and put it on a flower. I was like running around. I could see everywhere my foot touched the flower petal, it would glow brighter. And it was like liquid lavender light with some beautiful reds and pinks inside of it. And it was just luminescent. And again, a smell, a taste, a vibration. You would even see like these rainbows coming off of everything. So there is just so many more senses that we don't have here. And it's, a lot like our eyes here, how we can only see 15% of light. It's like there's a reason we can only see 15% of light. When we leave these flesh vessels, these flesh temples, we can see all light. And that's why I was seeing that glow on that medic's chest, is that's part of his light. And I was just so excited. Drake showed me the trees. I was freaking out about the trees. I felt like they were wise, ancient, billion-year-old souls. And they were just living very slow and methodically about their existence. And then I felt this tap on my toe. And I looked down and I saw this little creek, this little stream had come out, and it had like tapped my toe. And I heard in my mind, "Do you want us on you?" And I was like, "Yes, yes. Whatever this is, I want it." So the water started coming up and over me.
The water was speaking to you.
Yes, it definitely was. Yeah. And I was speaking to it too. So we were conversing, and it was going up and over my body. And, as a kid, I had severe abuse. And a lot of that showed up in my adulthood. I would get in fist fights. I would headbutt people all the time. I'd put a guy in the hospital one time because he kicked me in the groin. And, just silly things. But I would take out my trauma. I would channel it on any male who disrespected me, especially one that looked like my dad, And here it was, this water was going in and finding all these little places in my soul, all these like little cracks, these hyperfractures, these tears, and they were repairing it. And as it went up, it wasn't until it got to like my chest, I'm like, "Oh, I wonder if I'm going to be able to breathe." And it came up over my mouth, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess I don't need to breathe." That was the first like I even noticed, like, you don't need to breathe there. And the water came up and completed itself on the top of my head. And when it did, there was like a boom of energy, like that came off the top of my head. And then the water came back down, slowly came down off of me. And I felt healed. I felt completed. And I know that was either Drake telling them to do it or Source telling them to do it. But they were doing it because it was part of my journey to prepare me to go back. Because right after that, I was forced to go back. Drake came and put his arm around me, and he said, "Vinney, this next part, it's going to be really hard, but it's going to be worth it." And, I think I'm invincible as a kid, but I wanted to cry right there. And he hugged me. And when he hugged me, our two beings came together. And it's so neat because you don't have that flesh vessel there. Your two energetic bodies can come and become one for a second. And when it happens, there's like this pulsar of energy that comes off of just a hug, a simple hug. And I could feel that all the energy that was in me and all the energy that was in him, when we came together as hug, it became 8x. It became 8 times more powerful than what we could become on our own. It was just so much more powerful. And I felt like that was kind of a send-off gift from Drake, because in that hug, I started to hear in my ear my brother on earth saying a special prayer over my comatose body and saying, I command you to be whole. I command you to come back to your body. Because it was evident. It was 3 days, 0 brain activity. It wasn't induced coma in the beginning, at least because I wasn't conscious, but they wanted to induce the coma for helping with the swelling. I had swelling on the brain, seizures, all sorts of stuff. So I wasn't coming out of that induced coma. And I was off of all sorts of meds and still no sign of coming out of it in my neurology. And they had talked to my brother and my dad and had given them like these little pamphlets on what to do next, what to do when they're not waking up. Like, where do you go, or do you unplug? And he knew what my dad would decide, just unplug. But he wanted to make sure it was the right thing. And he wanted to make sure, especially for my mom. My mom was our saving grace in our family. And some of my siblings might not agree, but I don't care if they agree or not. She was. And she really was this bonding between all of us kids, and somewhat of a defensatory wall between dad and us kids. And she was out of town when this was all happening. She was visiting my Uncle Chuck in Texas. And no one had told her, because they knew if they told her, she'd either get an ulcer or fly out the first flight back. And they wanted to make sure I was going to live or die first before they told her. And they were deciding, do we call her, have her fly out and then unplug, or do we just unplug?
So your brother made this prayer sometime in the evening.
It's about 9:30 at night.
And
yeah.
a handful of hours later,
Yeah.
what happened?
At 1:11 in the morning, I woke up.
What did that feel like?
It felt like hell. It really did. That's the hell I experienced. Even my negative life review wasn't as bad as this. It was really bad. And right at first, I didn't remember my experience. I just knew I wanted to go home. I knew I was extremely claustrophobic.
You said you felt like a whale in a sardine can.
Yes. Like our energetic bodies are so much bigger than these flesh vessels. That's why we have to come as babies, so we can cry out that change. And then once we get through that, we grow into the physical vessel, allowing the energetic body to grow with us, right? And, our energetic body is huge. And that's probably why home is such a big place, because we are big. And, when people say spiritual giants, that's almost all of us. We are.
So you have this awareness of being in this hospital bed.
Yes. I woke up. I tried to go home. I woke up, pulled every tube out of me. I pulled my catheter out, pulled my breathers out, pulled every diode on my head off.
So you had been dead for 3 days,
Yeah.
and you came back fighting like a lion.
Yeah. And there was only 2 nurses on the floor. And I think they weren't covering too many beds, but they had like 2 comas at the time. And that was pretty rare. It was a brand new hospital. And my buddy wasn't one of them. They saved him right away. He spent 1 night in the hospital and went home the next day, because they were able to pump his stomach, and he didn't ever die. And so, I'm going through this experience of, I just want to go home. So I number one, ripped everything off me, and then just stood there naked for a second. And I'm like, I want to go home. I want to go home. And I'm looking around like, oh, I'm naked. And so I went rifling through the cupboards and found these gowns. And I grabbed like 2 of them, just wrapped around my midsection. And then I just started walking. I didn't know how. I would have looked like a crazy homeless man, but I was going to do it. I was like, I'll just walk home. I'm not going to stay here. And then I heard 2 screams. And I look back and see the nurses, and I could feel the sorrow, the scaredness, the fear coming off of them. And I knew I didn't want to do that to them.
Had you gotten outside the hospital?
No,
He's in the hallway.
I got to the elevator. I got to the elevator and was pushing the button.
It's a little bit like Frankenstein's monster, meaning like something that has consciousness all of a sudden and has a directive to move, but doesn't really know how to do it.
Yeah, so that morning they did a whole battery of tests.
They got you back in the bed.
They made me go back in the bed. They put on a real hospital gown. And even though I wouldn't let them tie it in the back, I was like, no. I just didn't like stuff touching me. I didn't even want sheets on my bed. I just didn't want to be touching stuff. I wanted to feel like I could have access to oxygen, even on my skin. And like true claustrophobia, the deepest level. And, you know, I met with all the doctors. Everyone's calling me, you're the miracle boy. You're the miracle boy. And I'm like, nope, I'm the damned boy. Because this is not miracle. I feel damned. I did. I felt like punished at this point. I felt like I must not have been good enough for something. I couldn't remember yet where I'd been. I just wanted to go home again. I'm like, I got to go home. Kept telling everyone that. And so I fought him and fought him and fought him. And then finally at about 6 a.m., they allowed me to start filling out paperwork. I had to fill it out for over an hour. And at 7:30 a.m., I checked out from that hospital on my own volition. You know, my dad came to get me and like took me home. I went running, went jogging.
Stop it right now.
Yeah. And I remember running and feeling this like little scab right there and peeling it off. I was like, what's that? Just like afflicted. But, you know, I wanted to go back to life. That's what I wanted. And I was a builder at the time. So I had a construction site. I'm like, oh, they probably think I'm dead. And so I wanted to go back to that site, but I knew give myself a day and then I'll go back tomorrow.
Sorry.
So I
give myself a day after being dead for 3.
Yeah.
You went back to work the next day.
I did, yeah.
I'm not a doctor, but not having brain activity, being in a body bag with almost no pulse in your heart for the length of time, both in the bathroom and then in the body bag in the back of the ambulance, like TV tells us that there's going to be brain damage. You're going to have muscle atrophy. You're not going to be able to function properly. How is it medically possible that you come back with all your faculties? It doesn't make sense.
Every doctor that I've studied it with tells me the same thing. They tell me there's got to be a factor we don't know about. And I had one doctor that said, what was that supplement you were on? I want to do a study on it. So he did a study on it and said, and, you know, I didn't follow up with him on the study, but I did find out what he reported on the study. It was something about that supplement kind of worked like a anesthetic or something that would put someone to sleep, but in strong amounts. But there was no heartbeat. They had me hooked up to the thing.
This was the big sleep.
There was no heartbeat. And for well over an hour, if not more than an hour.
Either from your own medical knowledge or from the internet.
Yes.
How long after having no heartbeat does there begin to be brain damage? It's like 3 or 4 minutes, no?
No, yeah, it's not
it's very fast.
Yeah.
It's
no,
very fast.
I mean, there's
like severe brain damage happens like within 10 minutes. I
mean, look, it's the understatement of the century, right? To say there's some other factor here, meaning you don't have a lot of choices in how to explain this man. There's not a lot of choices.
I had a coworker just a few months later I was working with in Wyoming, and I told him my story, and he unbuttoned his shirt and showed me this Frankenstein scar straight down his chest and said, you think that's something? I woke up during my autopsy.
Okay.
What?
Yeah.
What?
And he's not the only one. I've read about more since then. Woke up during their autopsy.
Sorry. What? Okay.
It's
we
not
need
a
to
lot.
get his
There's
number.
not a lot.
No, this
Yeah.
is a pretty rare thing.
Valerie has some stats here that I think are helpful just to put in context,
Yeah.
just the enormity of just physical details here.
Yes.
So this is from hypoxia, I think. Yeah. So at 3 minutes, neurons suffer extensive damage. Lasting brain damage becomes likely. At 5 minutes, obviously death is imminent. At 10 minutes, even if the brain remains alive, meaning has blood and circulation and all those things, a coma and lasting brain damage are inevitable. At 15 minutes, survival is nearly impossible. No, it's not. I
That
mean,
means lack of ability to speak, lack of ability to walk and have motor skills,
It's not.
no memory.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many parts, and this is why, like, I would like people to read the book, because there's so many parts of this that defy logic. They defy reason.
You know, I didn't understand how it was possible until later. I was following some Wayne Dyer stuff, and I discovered Anita Morjani, her
Yep,
story,
we've spoken to her.
and how she woke up, cured of cancer.
Correct.
And I feel like that's what that waking up, and that's what that water was doing.
You had a
'Cause
healing.
The water was not just healing my energetic body. It was healing what was going to go back into my flesh vessel.
Mhm.
And that would have to heal my physical body.
So there could have been, at that time, before that healing, extreme damage in your physical body.
Oh, I'm sure there was. Yeah.
So you
Well,
could
all
have...
the instruments said there was zero brain activity. Well, they're rating it as like less than 5% activity.
And were you on a, what's the machine that breathes for you?
Yeah.
I was on full
Yeah, he was
breathing
intubated.
assistance.
Yeah.
I was intubated. I had catheters in, double IVs to each arm.
They were giving you some sort of solution to kind of keep your electrolyte balance,
Yes,
something,
yeah.
Stable.
And then that wake up was like instantaneous. All of a sudden you were back.
I was just back. Yeah. And maybe that's why the time difference too. My brother said that prayer at about 9:30 and I woke up at 1:11. So maybe that's what, to me, in my perception,
Right.
I was traveling through space and time. And, time is kind of like this barrel right there, or this glass, right? If you imagine this glass is like a bunch of spiraled noodle, and you look at that stack of spiral noodle, time is the spiral. And like, to put me back in my time, they had to find my piece of the noodle to put me into it. But in that process, I could see on this side of the noodle and that side of the noodle. I could see what was in our ancient past, and I could see what was coming up in our really distant future. So and it was very easy to see. Just looking, you could see it.
I have an annoying question, and then I have, I think, a less annoying question. I think that some people might, even with loving skepticism, listen to your story and what happened to you and say, well, you had some sort of like elaborate dream and you think that you were seeing these things, but there's no way that you could. And all we have is like your account. Is there any way for us to, let's say, corroborate, what was happening, let's say, in the Dairy Queen while you were in the bathroom, so that we can say, oh, there is a way that you knew what was going on? Is there any way to kind of reference any of this to try and find connection points?
Well, I woke up from it as a skeptic. I had a neurologist that morning before I left. He really wanted to keep me another day to observe. He was afraid that it was a hiccup and I was going to go back into coma. He thought, he said that it's common right before someone dies, they'll like get real high energy and be very, very clean and
it's a death lucidity. Yeah, we've
death
talked about
lucidity.
it. Yeah,
he thought I was in death lucidity and I was just going to drop dead any second. And there was a part of me that was like, maybe that's why I should just go running, because maybe if I'm running, that's not going to happen. So that's honestly why I went running as soon as I went home. I think that's probably why I went running. And I was a rugby player, football player, and I wanted to go move. Get out of this body.
So is there any way that we can have little bits of connection points, or do we simply rely on your report? You know what I mean? Like I want to know the witness statements, and I want them to say that you heard the thing. Like I want to know.
I tried to get all of that at the time. I was 25 when I tried, so I didn't try that hard.
Right.
I tried with like a few phone calls, a few letters.
It's complicated.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
Number one, the medic transportation, they wouldn't give me anything. They wouldn't even give me the medic's name.
No, they have huge liability for
And
leaving you in the bag.
I knew he was going to get fired.
Yeah.
Did he get
Because
fired?
He almost did. He ended up becoming a fireman, but if he had stayed on, he was going to be released. He was going to be terminated. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you don't like to save people.
I
That's
tried
not
to do
part
all
of the
that.
job.
I did collect, my very expensive block-and-a-half ride on an ambulance. I had a bill that at the time was like 40-something thousand. Again, in 2003, that was a lot for 3 days. Nowadays, you could burn that in a day here. You can go to lunch at a hospital for 30 grand now. So, back then, you stay a week for maybe 10 grand if you're lucid and not under a lot of assistance. So, yeah, I had that. I think it was like 40,000 for that bill. All of that's record. My time of death recorded is record. But because I was resuscitated, they didn't turn that in as finished paperwork.
So in theory, we get to rely on your accounting. When did the rest of the story get filled in for you?
So for me, I was extremely depressed after this. I went to the most trusted search engine at the time called Ask Jeeves. And this was before Google.
What do you do when you die and come back?
No, I asked, what's the most, and it's funny the way I thought of it. I knew this life insurance guy. He kind of bugged me. He's very annoying. And I asked him, I go, what kind of jobs can you not sell life insurance to? And he's like, I don't know. It's a good question. So I went to Ask Jeeves and I found there a couple of articles saying, if you're such and such life insurance company, you can't sell policies to underwater welders because they have a very high mortality rate. It's like 60-something%. Crab fishermen, it's in the 50s at the time, back in the early 2000s, like 50%. Some military duties, it was in the high 30s, especially if it was an active theater of war. And so I looked into all of them, signed up for military. I signed up.
What were you looking for?
I wanted to die. I want to go back. I didn't want to be here. This was hell. Being here after there, that's hell. That's why we can't remember it. If we could remember it, we wouldn't stay here. We would just release ourselves. I wanted to go back so bad, but I knew that if I just went and drove off a cliff, there was this one cliff, I drove to the top and just stared at it like, I could do it, Drake, I could do it right now.
Were you still in contact
yes.
with?
And I thought I was crazy.
You thought you were going nuts.
I thought I was schizophrenic. I thought I needed to be on multiple prescriptions for this. I did not believe in any of that stuff. I didn't. I believed in spiritual people and intuition. I didn't believe in psychics back then. I didn't believe in people being able to speak to the dead.
So you and Drake are still in conversation?
Complete. And not only that, I'm seeing dead people everywhere.
Okay.
And I'm seeing them as if they're alive, seeing them walk around, sitting around, talking to each other, even to this point where I felt like I almost needed to stop driving for a while because I would swerve for someone who's not there. And there was a big part of my brain that I'm having a hard time accepting. And I keep hearing that sentence from the neurologist. Don't believe what your brain is filling in the gaps with.
Because that's what you were told.
That's what I was told. He says, your brain's going to make up a story. It's going to be colorful. It's going to be elaborate, but don't believe it. It's just your brain using Crayola crayons to fill in the blocks. And so I continued on my journey. I met my wife. I met my Andrea, my angel. And she's someone who, the world doesn't get her because she has a special gift with kids, especially special kids. And she could work with them, help them to do things that they've never done in their life. And she almost has like an ESP with autistic or special needs children. And here I was. And I just saw her as this porthole to heaven. I really did. And I met her through one of my friends, through her best friend. And before we even went on a single date, we knew we were going to get married. We went on our first date after we had already both decided we were going to get married. And we even had our first kiss before we went on our first date. And we were just hanging out as friends. But she was the first person I shared my story with. And I did it to try to like scoot her off because I felt it was crazy. So if she did too, I'd be like, well, dodge that bullet. And so I told her the whole thing. It took like a week, by the way. I went into every detail, every element. She asked questions. I told everything that I could remember. And we get done to this period and we decide, yeah, we're going to get married. And I find a new hope in my life. And with her, she helped me reprioritize my life.
Because you kind of had a bad boy image also.
Oh, not just image. I was a bad boy. Like any girl that liked bad boys, those were all my girlfriends and ex-girlfriends. That was just me. I had this scar above my head from a headbutt that was so bad that it dropped my whole skin head down and it gave me a second eyebrow. And like a lot of girls love that. They're like this bad boy fighter guy. And
Good thing you didn't meet her back then.
oh, I watched Blossom.
Hold on. I still want to go back to the time period where you've come back. You feel like it's oppressive. You're living in hell. You've been in this place where you're so expanded. You're now back in the physical form. And your mind, as you said, is like filling in the gaps. How are these images coming back to you? Like, how do you begin to recount and become aware of all that time that
all
you just...
the experience, it came in one flash.
No.
Yeah, one flash. The entire thing dumped into me.
How long after, like, when was that moment?
So, you know, I got out of the hospital at 7:30 in the morning, did my, running around, doing busy stuff that day.
Like you do. After
Just running some errands after I stopped being dead.
Dead man errands. And then the very next day went to work, worked a full day. After work, my sister called and said, hey, I'm in town. She lived further up north. She's like, I'm in town. I want to take you to dinner. Our sister's here too. So
glad you're not dead.
So two of my sisters and I, we went and had dinner. And this one sister, she was just enthralled with NDEs. And she knew something happened. You know, she'd been really following this story. And I think she had called the hospital a couple of times. And she was calling my brother and calling my dad. No one would tell her enough information.
So she had the term NDE already. You probably didn't have it.
She called it, did you experience anything? That's what she asked.
Wow.
She goes, you were dead. Everyone says you were dead. They say you're a miracle. Like, did you see anything? Did you experience anything? And in my mind, my human formed the words, no, leave me alone. But what came out of my mouth while I started crying like a newborn child, I said, yes, I have a guide. His name's Drake. And I started describing him. And I started crying really hard and heavy. And I was like, I couldn't catch my breath. And I'd say, and I went on a journey. I just started crying. And I couldn't control it. I went into the bathroom, got myself together, even before my food came. And that was not me either. Like, I would eat all my food. I was a bodybuilder. And no, before even my food came, I went and got myself together in the bathroom and just went home. I didn't go finish dinner with him.
So in that moment when she asked and you started speaking, it just came to you.
It all came to me in a single dump.
And you knew it all.
No,
Yep,
but
all of it.
But what he said was that human meat suit Vinney said, no, nothing happened, leave me alone.
Leave me alone, yeah.
And energetic Vinney said, this is the flight.
Do you think it was protecting you? Like there's a version of our awareness.
It was the mask.
I think it was. They had to put a mask over it because if I'd remembered it right away, my hospital room was on the third story, second or third story. I probably would have just like headbutted myself through the window just so I could go back. Honestly, that's probably, unfortunately, I was one of those crazy guys at parties. That was me. And
what's with the headbutting, Vinney?
Well, you learn it in rugby.
Right.
And then you learn it in MMA.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes like your go-to.
Right.
And it keeps you from scarring up those knuckles.
But it's like when we're children, and we embody as babies, we have to forget about the transition so that we can. It
Yes.
feels similar that you came back, but you needed protection in order to
I did need that protection.
take
I know
yourself
that I
into
did,
that
yeah.
transition of getting over the coming back.
And I noticed that there was a lot of spirits, what I would call angels, hanging out with Drake around me
Yeah.
when I first came back for that first day.
They have to watch
There
over you,
was-
make sure that
There's like
the transition.
hundreds.
What does that look like?
Oh, they're so amazing. They're so beautiful.
Is there a visual?
Yes. Yes.
What is it?
It's, if you imagine, being in that place of heaven, I saw that when you're there, there's no outside light.
Okay.
Everything is source light. So you're source light. The grass is source light. The flowers are source light. And angels are source light. So they could be in a dark room and they're brighter than the day sun. If you can tune your consciousness into perceiving it, you can see even tones of color that the angels are. And by the tone of color, you know who they are. And
It's like Lorna Byrne.
yes. And the unemployed angels, they're all hanging out here waiting to be called in, either by prayers or by inquest, by asking anyone who wants to get help from heaven. You ask, there's spirits that show up. There's angels that show up for it. And I know, my mom had heard what had happened. She wasn't rushing back. She had heard I was okay. And I know for a fact she was praying off her tail to pray that I was going to be okay.
You saw when you were with Drake, you had an experience of seeing groups of beings praying for someone.
Yes. And watching those prayers fuel actual legions of beings to go help, like enlist and go help. Yeah.
There's one story that I wonder if you can give us as an example of the kind of help that you sought, because there was one doctor in particular that you went to, and a woman presented herself.
She did. So I was still in the period of, I'm a crazy guy. Andrea's the only one who believes me. I didn't even think my sisters believed me yet, because I still couldn't tell them the whole thing. Andrea was the only one I could tell her for more than 30 minutes without like deep breathing, weeping, and I just felt a comfort level with her. So I was in that period, and I still am so skeptical. I've been so skeptical. Abused kids are skeptical. They don't trust anything. You trust what your gut tells you. You don't trust what you see. And so I wasn't trusting what I saw with my vision or whatever. And so I did say, you know what, screw this. I told Drake, I'm like, I'm going to go see a doctor. So I went to one doctor, and he was like, I'm the wrong doctor for this. You need somebody who can prescribe you stuff. So I was like, oh, okay. So he referred me to another doctor. That second doctor, I went to go see him. From the second I walked in the room, I sensed this presence of an older female. I knew she was in there. I couldn't see who she was or how she was connected until he started to fill out my prescriptions. And then she said to Drake and to me, don't you dare take those prescriptions until you tell him 2 sentences. The 2 sentences essentially alluded to, don't forget what I did. I protected you, and that's why you do what you do.
How did he react?
He had some closeted trauma that he had zero memory of, that he had no memory. No one in his world had memory of this except for his mother.
That's who you were seeing.
And that's who I was seeing.
What
Either
did-
mother or grandmother.
What did
But
he do?
she, just saying those sentences, it's like she gave him the memories. And when this happened to him, really good, like Christian guy, pictures of Jesus on his wall, in his office even. And he took those prescriptions, just like ripped them to shreds and said, get the F out of my office. And I I knew this guy from his reputation. That was probably the first time he had said that word in his life.
Wow.
And because he had such a good, clean, reputation. So that freaked me out. I was like, good job, Drake. Thanks for letting me piss this guy off. Maybe I'm going to have a white van meet me at my house and I'm going to go live in a new house. I really thought that. I was driving away, and then about a mile or so down the road, my phone rang, and it was him. He called me and he said, Vinney, I don't have any answers for you. My version of medicine doesn't have answers for you. He's like, I don't want you to seek your answers from us. My official opinion is you need a preacher and not a doctor.
Wow. That's a spiritual solution.
Yeah. So I did. I went to try to find more spiritual solutions and found some rabbit holes, found some dead ends. And others I found as very helpful too.
I mean, also you had a completely different perception now of what religion even is, right?
Yes.
That's a human construct.
Religion, regather. That's what religion is. It's to re-separate, regather. And, for me, it was really important for me to try that doctor's visit, though. I wanted my ego to know I did what you wanted me to do. Now back off. Let me play with this a little and see if it is real. And I would play with it a little, and I would talk to guides. I'd talk to angels. I would go help people. Like I would hear 2 miles up on your right, there's going to be a woman sitting down on the road.
No.
She needs a ride 3 blocks down.
No.
Yeah. And if you don't get her there soon, her daughter's going to fall and hurt herself. So I rush around. I'm like, I'm here to pick you up. And she's like, okay. She just jumps in the car.
You're like freaking
I'm
Superman.
I'm like, okay. And then at first I had to turn it down. It was making me crazy. And I ran her to her house, and I knew, okay. And I was like, Drake, did we make it in time? And he's like, great job, Vinney, great job, And it was like, to me, on earth, when there's angels, that's what it is. It's like real angels working through us. That's what angels are. That's what earth angels are. Yeah.
What brings the tears for you?
It's just that love. There's just nothing like it there. There just isn't. I have 2 amazing kids, a beautiful family. There's just nothing like that.
Do the angels go away when you're intimate with your wife?
You don't think about that.
You gotta
stuff.
draw the curtain.
Yeah,
it's like there's
you're human.
privacy.
Your flesh vessel might think about that, but there's no one interested in that.
You're getting these messages.
Yeah.
You're helping people.
Yeah.
You're having
here and there, not a ton, but here and there I was.
But you're being guided. You're actively being guided.
When they told me to do it, I would do it.
And you're in relation with Drake that's seemingly on a very consistent basis.
Lose him. He's worse than a shadow at that point. I couldn't lose him for anything.
So you're now not dead. You got Drake. You're running around like Batman and Robin sometimes.
Yeah.
But what else is, what are you experiencing? What is your day-to-day?
I still think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I really do. All of a sudden I had this new gift that if someone was coming to speak to me, I knew it 2 hours before they'd come. So
you're having minor premonition.
I did. I had minor premonition. I had a complete gift of perception. I could tell so easily when people would lie to me or try to mask what the truth was.
You could tell when something was beneath the surface.
And then I would speak to their spirit guides and say, how do I get them to tell me the truth? And they tell me what to say. I tell it to them. And then they would unravel the truth in front of me. And they would be like, how did you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah.
And are you having mediumship experience or just conversation?
Not yet. Not yet. Yeah. I didn't know, again, back 2003, this is before a lot of the medium shows and all that. I didn't know what a medium was. I knew what a psychic was, and I thought they were evil. I thought they were like charlatans and snake oil, bad people. That was just my judgment, my prejudice. And, through all this, there was this pulse of light around me called Andrea. And she kept aligning me. I would go into these tangents of I just want to be back there. And then she'd say, let's get together. And all of a sudden I'd be happy again. And I'd stop thinking about those things. So we started spending every day together and got to a point where she said, hey, next weekend, we're going to your family reunion. And I'm like, no, we're not. We're going to go watch a game. We're going to go do this, go on a date. She's like, no, sir. We are driving 5 hours up to the little town in Wyoming where this is going on. We're going to go to your family reunion. And I was like, oh, okay. So we go to this little reunion. It's the end of the day. They're doing a little presentation at the high school on the history of this little town in Wyoming called Star Valley or Afton.
How long has it been since you woke up?
7 months.
7 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So 6 months there, 7 months when I got married.
Okay.
So just short of 7 months. Yeah.
Family reunion. Go ahead.
At a family reunion, I'm sitting down. I'm bored. I'm like, let's just go back to the hotel and watch TV or do something. I was still very much my 25-year-old human. And Andrea's like, no, this is really cool stuff. Let's learn about your heritage. This is your heritage, not mine. Let's learn about it. And so we were sitting there and I was trying to play along, trying to play nice. And all of a sudden, Andrea says to me, that's your guide. And I'm looking down. I'm like looking at this cooler that we have some drinks in. And I'm like, that's not my. And then I stopped. I was frozen because I turned and looked and there was Drake. Like larger than life. They had this huge movie screen in the middle of this football field. And they filled the whole screen with his face. And I just started weeping. I couldn't speak. I was almost like paralyzed. And Andrea, just being the diligent little soul, she like grabs our stuff, kind of lifts me up. And she's so small compared to me. She's like a third the size of me. And she's like kind of helping me up. And she's like guiding me back to the car. She knows it's time to leave right then. And between the tears, the just snot bubbles like running out of my face, she heard me say, let's go to grandma's house. Because I saw the last name of Drake was Kazare, and that's my grandmother's maiden name.
Okay, so hold on one second. You're watching this documentary movie.
Yeah.
Right? It's a documentary that's put on about the history.
It's like a play. It's
right,
a play, yeah.
Right, but it's a video.
A film strip.
A film
yeah.
strip, right. So you're watching this, and it's part of just the whole thing, like the history of this area and the history of this region. And a face comes up, and
Andrea saw it first.
And
not me.
Andrea saw it. She felt something about this. And when
she knew it.
When you saw it, you said, that is the image, the person that's been with me, my guide. But it didn't say that his name was Drake.
No, it said Charles.
It said Charles, and then the last name was
Kazare or Kazier.
Right. So it said Charles Kazier, and that's not Drake, but you had this feeling that you should go ask your grandmother who has that last name.
She had
so
that
this
last
was
name,
one of her, we don't know.
Yeah, don't know. Don't even know if they're related.
Correct.
But same little town with like less than maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people in it. Yeah, there's got to be a relation.
So you go to your grandmother.
We go straight to grandma's house. And I think I need to ask about this Charles Kazare. And so I went and said, Grandma, do you know who Charles Kazare? Can you tell me anything about Charles Kazare? And her response was, oh, you mean great grandpa Drake.
That's it.
He's really famous in our family.
Drake.
And she brought it up. She brought up the name Drake. That was the very next time I had ever heard that name before him telling it to me.
Who was he?
And come to find out, he was one of the first settlers early settlers in Afton, Wyoming. He was like a land surveyor. He was a city member. He was a county government member, a state government member. He was also a clergy leader. So he was like a high leader within the clergy.
And who was he in your family?
And he was my great, great, great grandfather on my grandmother's side. Yeah. So was my grandmother's great, great grandfather. Yeah. And the stories were so prevalently being shared with each other, with her as a girl, that she felt like she knew him. And she even said, they say I wasn't alive when he was, but I swear I remember meeting him. And I'm like, yeah, you did, Grandma. It was right before you got in that little baby body of yours. And it was just so neat. And as, Kismet would set it up for us, it was only 3 months later, we were living with my grandmother, taking care of her at the end of her life. And that was it. I learned so much about Drake. I learned that he was blessed with a special prayer that said the important duties he would play in this life. And then on the backside of that prayer was an entire page of all the duties he would have in the afterlife.
Oh.
And that one of his primary duties would be to welcome those who are loved by God, by Source, and family or not, and guide them to where they want to go. It said that in his 1800s prayer, which to me, that was someone channeling. That was summoning Source through them and bringing it into this prayer for this man. And now I had a whole nother relationship with him. I very much had a love-hate relationship up until that point. And now I was like fanboying all over my great-great-great-grandpa. And I was like, why didn't you tell me? And he was like, you weren't ready yet. You weren't ready yet. And he kept telling me, I promised you it was going to get better. And ever since then, anything bad that happens to me, he's always right there. Vinney, it's going to be hard, but it's going to get better. It's going to be worth it. And he was just saying that to me 6 weeks ago. I mean, he's a daily part of my existence. He comes forward now when I call him forward. He used to be forward, interacting with me all the time, everywhere I went. I've now kind of like put him on the shelf with many guides, and I utilize them according to what my spiritual team helps me organize in the work that I do with helping others, change their lives and step out of their old paradigms and step out of their trauma cages, unlock those cages and grow and heal and live beyond our old story and learn how to live in a new story. And that's what I do. And I use all of my guides with that.
How do you get in touch with them? Is it a place you go inside? Is it words? Is it thoughts?
So it's the you-inverse. It's
Say
the
again?
universe.
Oh.
It's the you inside out. So, what we perceive as the universe is just us inside out. As above, so below. And so I tap in, but that ends up tapping me through and out to them. Yeah.
This is not what you thought your life was going to be like.
No. I thought I was going to be working in film. I worked on this little movie called Pool Hall Junkies, and I got to meet like Christopher Walken and Chaz Palminteri, and I got to meet like Ricky Schroeder, which is from your early days, right?
Yeah.
And it was so cool. They were like friendly with me. Most of them. One of them wasn't. But it was a really neat experience. And I thought for sure this was going to be my gig. I was going to make movies. I'd worked for Touched by an Angel for 2 years. And I've now done
I mean, the irony there is not lost on any of us.
I know. But you know what's funny is one of my guides is Delarice.
Wow.
Yeah. That gets me every time.
Wow. You say that you thought back to the darkness in your childhood, and there was a lot of it. Fear, pain. I grew up creating an alternate universe in my mind where I was safe. This is something that we've heard from pretty much every individual who has had an NDE, that there was a set of skills acquired.
They just show up.
Well, the notion being that there are challenges that allow you to practice.
Yes.
Not only leaving your body, but surviving.
Surviving, yeah.
The things that force you out of your body. Talk a little bit about the trauma you experienced, the dissociation you were able to achieve, and how you think that might relate to your NDE.
So I'll express one really precious traumatic event for me. I got my brand new $8 boots dirty, and that I was not allowed to do. I was 6 or 7 years old. And so that meant it was going to be 2 to 3 hours of beatings. And it also meant that I was going to lose chunks of my hair, possibly going to have one of my ears torn. And I knew I was going to be beat. I just didn't know with what. It could have been a stick, could have been the belt buckle of the belt, or just the belt. Or I loved Mr. Spoon because he'd make a loud smack, but he didn't hurt. And that was more my mom's instrument than my dad's. But I knew that here I was from the second I got in the car and my dad saw I had mud on my boots, that that was it. And I had this weird sense that death was around me. What I didn't know is 1 week later, that friend that I had been playing with that day died in a camping accident. And I feel like there was a part of my dad's psychic nature that was picking up on that and channeling his anger for me not to follow the rules. And so Dad just started unleashing on me. He unleashed on me in the van while he's driving, full fists to the face, to the chest, anywhere he could reach. And if you lunged or flinched, he'd hit you again. So you had to hold still for your punches. And by the time I got home, I knew that I had just had the appetizer and that this was going to be the meal. And so my dad brought me in. I won't go into all the details. Fast forward, 20 minutes later, I'm now in the backyard. Chunks of my scalp are torn. I have hair missing out of my head. I've got lashes all over my back. I'm not wearing pants. I'm wearing my whitey tighties. And I was tasked with going out back and getting wood out of the wood pile, which we had this big coal bin that was bigger than almost an adult. And then I needed to climb up into that thing, get some wood out, and refill our wood burning fireplaces, which we had 2 of them in our house. And that was my duty to bring justice to getting muddy boots. And while I was out there, I was climbing. I could not. I was so exhausted from all the beating so far. I couldn't climb into this coal bin. So I started stacking pieces of coal that had fallen. And I was like teetering on them, trying to lift up this really heavy wood lid. It looks kind of like a lean-to garbage can. I was like lifting in this heavy wood lid while I was trying to reach in and get some wood out. And I remember getting like one piece and it was barely starting to come out. And right as that happened, I feel this smack right across my back of my head. And I went rolling onto the concrete. And my dad said, "Not fast enough, are you?" And he reached into that same coal bin and pulled out a 2x4. And he goes, "You know the position." And any abused kid knows the position. I went into my position. That means you put your hands on something and you brace because the blows are coming. But I knew that 2x4 was bigger than my elbow. It was bigger than my knee. I was a little child at the time. And I knew this was probably going to be it. So I went to my space. I did. And in that space, you have friends. You don't know that they're angels at the time, but I called my friends. I called my friends over and they all came. They're surrounding me. And it's weird because when you go into that space, you're now not in your body. You're watching your body like remotely. And you're surrounded by all these beings that are full of light. And you're like watching the abuse happen to the body, but you're like, oh, good. It's like you're not feeling that pain. The 2x4, as it comes swinging down full speed, I watch this white arm clothed in this like kind of different looking print. This white arm reaches out and puts itself right in front of this 2x4. And that 2x4 exploded into hundreds of pieces. And it sounded so loud, it sounded like a bomb, like a little stick of dynamite or an M80 or something. It was so loud, neighbors on both sides, 2 houses down, went in their backyard to see what that was. And one neighbor, she witnessed this. because she was out on her patio. She heard that crack, looked outside, and saw this shattered 2x4, sees me laying, in the position and like bleeding and just in my turmoil. And I'm watching it from outside me, and I'm like, that was a real superhero. And to me, I thought that was Archangel Michael. I always thought that was Archangel Michael. And, years later in my healing journey, in me trying to help heal people, I've had to heal me. And that's the hardest client I have is me. Way hard client. I want to fire me all the time. And in trying to heal me, I ended up going back and working on this moment. And I brought in Michael because he was the guy who saved me. So I'm like, Kay, you're my dude. Him and Drake and Yeshua and quite a few others, they all hang out with me when I do this work. And I'm like, let's go to the space. Let's do the work. Let's do the heavy lifting. Let's clean this up and let's move on. It's time to release this and let it go. And I was watching the whole scene play forward. I see my little soul come out. I see all the little lights that come around it. And I see them all watching like giddy. And I'm like, okay, Michael, this is it. And I'm like grabbing his arm, like, put your arm out there, do it. And he like looks to me, puts his hand on my chest. He goes, it's not my arm, Vinney. It's yours. And so I did it. And when I came out of that meditation, I had like serious bruises on my elbow right there. And so it was like a reminder that this is not just something energetic. This is physical. It is. There's a commingling. There's a quantum weaving between all of this. What we can perceive and what we experience and what we think are all reality.
It's so powerful. And when I think about then the NDE and what your soul experienced, even before you had an awareness of Drake, right?
Yeah.
You were being summoned to this place that so many NDEers describe of, I already know the skill to pull back and not be in that physical space of pain because I can remove myself and be above it, as it were.
And, as an adult, I'm like, oh, I was meditating. It was trauma-induced meditation, but it was still meditation.
Well, it's a dissociative skill, right?
It is, yep.
It's
a coping mechanism.
Correct. But when people like Suzanne Giesemann talk about it, right? You're dropping into this space. That's the space where you're receptive to this other wavelength, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say.
It's an unbelievable and powerful story. I mean, for people who are only listening, you may have heard Archie chime in.
Howling.
And pets are so aware of the emotional state. Like he came over got up off the bed in the back and came over. Like he could feel the intensity.
He may also need to pee, but I don't know.
Probably.
As we kind of round out our time with you, what is your life like? What's your life like energetically? What's your purpose, now?
It's like heaven, hell, paradise, and school. It is. Each day a little different. And I don't get squeamish to which day I'm in. I just am coming out of a real weird phase with my body that, it's weird. Some of the damage that I should have received with that blow, randomly, 5 weeks ago, I got a fever really bad, and all of a sudden I was almost paralyzed. And I'm just coming out of that now. Been walking for 4 days now.
Wow.
And but putting it to spirit, medicine wasn't able to help me. We tried every test. They thought I had spinal meningitis at first. They tested everything, couldn't find anything wrong. And from pressure in the right area, where spirits would tell me to put pressure on my body, I got my body to start functioning again. And I just keep, wherever they say, hey, put pressure right there, I'll do it right away. I've been doing that now for 5 weeks. And and I'm getting better, like way better now. And the fact that I walked up here is actually one of my miracles I count today. Because yesterday I couldn't do that incline, honestly.
Yeah, we're on a big hill.
Yeah.
It's not an easy walk to get up there.
Yeah.
Such is life.
But it wasn't hard. It felt like I almost had my assistance. Truly. I'm sure I did. I wasn't looking for it, but I'm sure I did. Yeah.
If people are listening and they haven't died, do you have advice on how they can connect with their guides?
Yes. Number one, anyone who's listening to this and you're triggered, move on. I don't share my experience to try to convince anyone of anything. What I do is I share my experience like a PR campaign for heaven and for who we really are. I want to awaken as many of us as possible to know that there's no legion except for the legion of souls. And that's the true legion, is the legion of all souls. And that our source is our legion. And that we don't need separations from each other. I share my experience so that we can reconnect, draw together, find solutions, and stop focusing so much on the problems. Because being an anti-problem in this universe, it invites more problem. We have to be pro-source. We have to be pro-solution to bring more solutions. And we have to bring love everywhere we go as we do it. And as we do, we can knock that laundry list of problems this earth has until there's none left. And that will be heaven on earth. And that's coming.
What do you think about Earth right now and what it's going through? Like, what cycle are we in?
She's in a shedding phase. So she's in a phase where she has this higher place she's going to go. She also wants to shed those who are not ready to go with her. And so she will shed them in two ways. Shed them through death, or she'll shed them by offloading a shell of herself, like a skin of herself, an energetic skin that's very low vibrational. So that can be the safety net to capture those who aren't ready to graduate with her. But she's getting ready for graduation. Is it going to happen tomorrow? No. We've got quite a few years before graduation, but it is a time that we all who are alive right now waited to come here now so we could witness. And some of us are some of the last volunteers to come for this transition.
Do you feel like as it transitions, people are going to have an easier time connecting with spirit, that it's going to...
Way more. They'll want to connect to spirit more than their technology. And in fact, they'll put technology down. And I saw in our distant future that where technology exists, it exists only in community spaces. It does not exist in your own home spaces anymore. And so that when you use it, you go to community space.
That's what it used to be like in the 90s.
It did, right? The library for the computer,
right? Or we would go at UCLA. There was like a place, you'd stand in line.
Computer lab.
Computer, wait your turn.
So that it's not infiltrating every part of our existence. Yes. Like we go back to some semblance of human interaction, and then when I have to work, you have to work.
But in that future timeline, we get to a point where we don't need to use words to communicate again. We had that a long time ago. We lost it. We also bring back one of the lost 12 tribes who had the power of levitation or levitation. So like that comes back to us. And that's just one little nugget in the bucket of gold that comes in this transition phase. But it comes with us earning it though. So we have to prove that we don't have to choose to let our governments be source. We don't. We don't have to engage in what they want. We don't. We can choose to not look, not be distracted, and choose to put our energy in positive places. And that moves more positive energy into your world, into your realm.
This was such a powerful conversation. We're so grateful that you shared so intimately.
I'm so grateful to be here.
The book is The Light After Death, My Journey to Heaven and Back. Thank you so much. And I wanted to end with a quote that I thought of that's from the Talmud. We've talked about it before. Every blade of grass has an angel that bends over it and whispers, grow, grow. And I thought of that when you talked about the grass and just your entire journey and this notion that, that everything matters. Everything has its own angel, even a blade of grass.
If you think of the atom, the first creation, the ADAM, and think of it that all of us carry so many ATOMs, that we are all the atom, and that every atom has an angel. Every atomic level of us has an angel.
It's beautiful. Vincent Todd Tolman, thank you so, so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure.
I got nothing else to say from our breakdown to the one we hope you never have. We'll see you next time.
It's Mayim Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you. She's got a neuroscience PhD or two. One fiction, one and now she's